she wins. People bear witness. Thank you for letting us be ourselves.
Chuck D on the real off the record with the legendary Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the King of Rock.
That's huge, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like to be thinking of a Bruce Springsteen and all the Bono and to be, you know, taking Aerosmith records and just rapping over them and, you know, not even know who these guys were personally about the music, but we knew these guys are famous. This is what, you know, showbiz and music is about when you become like Dylan and all of these guys. Now to be in a place with them,
and understand the reverence and understand that, you know, really seriously being shoulder and shoulder with them. Because, you know, a lot of times people are like, oh, yeah, that's rock. People that just don't know enough, knowing the fact that you know, you're the beginning and the end because the records are all like, you know, like the records. And you promoted those records as well as doing those records and making everybody understand that there's other genres that led up to it. At the beginning of it is, you know, the roots of the blues and all that.
The first questions that we would always get is, this was like probably 84, 85. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years? And is rap a fad? We would always get those questions. And just recently, about 2 years ago, I was asked that in like 85, and I was like, I took it personally. Man, in 10 years, I'm going to be back here doing an interview with you. So 2 years recently, I was doing a press conference. The guy put his hand up and said, DMC, 15 years ago, I asked you, where do you think you'll be in 5 years? And you said 10 years. I am that reporter.
Wow.
But you got to understand
big.
something. Yeah, I know that's huge. But people got to understand something. Rock and roll and hip hop is brother and sister. Now, if you say hip-hop now, people might not think that because when you say hip-hop, even when you say hip-hop, what's the first thing that comes to your head? The images and concepts over the last 15 years. But for that guy, like you said, who's sitting home, where's this for me? You say hip-hop to him, it's a whole nother paradise that's going to pop up for him. But see, we represented the total existence of the B-girl or the B-boy. Who is that? The female that says they're down with hip-hop culture, or the male that's down with hip-hop culture, even to the point of it was regardless of race, creed, color, religion, height, or location. You know, when a white guy says, man, I had a guy said, I'm a hillbilly, D. I am a hillbilly. But when I had my Raising Hell cassette, I would go to my cabin in the woods and put it in my tape recorder. And then my mother and father came home one day and said, let me listen to what you, because the rap thing or whatever it was called, they didn't like it because their perception was when gangster rap and, you know, the negative side of the rap. But he said he sat there with his mother and father and they listened to it, and the mother and father was really impressed. They didn't like the hit it run, leave all suckers in the dust, but those dumb MFers, they was like, oh, what's that? But that was only one curse, you know, right there. But the whole thing about this whole hip hop culture, we were responsible for our well-being. We were responsible for our information. It's just like rap would give some of these kids stuff that they would never hear. But if you look at hip hop right now, they're getting the same thing over and over and over. Now, when I say you need to say this, my brother, or you need to, it's not a point where I'm hating on you or I'm jealous of the money you get in. You need to say it because if I say it, that little kid down in Tennessee, for instance, he's listening to the Yang Yang Twins album. You gotta rhyme about something other than strip clubs. And what I mean by that is this, not against what they do.
Well, if you're making 14 tracks, at least, you know, some of the tracks should be.
But from this standpoint, if I say it, the kid knows, okay, my brother, my older brother, or even my father, that was his generation. But if the Yang Yang Twins said it, this is all that happens. The kid might go home because you said it, you know, Jeezy or whoever you was. I could say it, and I've been saying it. You know what I'm saying? You could go listen to my first record I ever made. I said something of substance. But if you say it, that little kid from your neighborhood in Memphis or Tennessee or wherever it's at, that little 9-year-old boy might go home and write something different.
Well, that's what I said.
Because you're him now.
Well, I said the premise of the show is just straight out one-to-one because we got into a point where the record companies would tell the artists, we don't want you talking to the press.
All you got.
And I'm like, who's going to sit with young Jeezy, respect him as a man one-to-one and ask him man questions like, what happens, you know, when you go to a PTA meeting with your kid and then you have like 5 million, 10 million people look at this brother in a different light, and he's got to answer that question.
He's gonna say something.
Because, you know, it's like, really, seriously, if this, you know, you're a man, so man to man, or man to woman, or whatever, you know, in hip-hop, if you over 20-some years old, like, what the real talk to you, and this is, I think, is the biggest vacancy in hip-hop, that somebody else who has no connection to us as a people still marionettes our existence, and especially in hip-hop as a music. I want to go into the areas of asking, you know, about the music, because, you know, you ask somebody today and they're fragmented in their own little existence, and the same week we had Barack Obama inaugurated, you know, a lot of people were talking about, well, they had to rush to go to the movies to see Notorious just because a big film company has a life of Biggie. And, you know, and we're talking about Run DMC hit the films, you know, with the first rap group to hit the films hard, with Crush Groove and then so on. Just tell us about those beginnings, and then also what we had talked about. Me and you talked about the broke 80s, because one thing I was proud of you, in the talks of the last century, Peter Jennings and ABC had the talks, you know, had the theme of the century, and you was a highlighted voice talking about how crack had invaded just the black community, and they depended on you to open up the doors and really be a voice, and you was such a great voice explaining the attitude and the sentiment and the conditions of the time.
Well, I mean, in the 80s where we was coming up, it was especially us from suburban, lower middle class Queens. Rap just invaded our neighborhood. Now, we was in Queens, but to hear the guys from, you know, for us it was like the Bronx and Harlem. It was like, you know, we kind of got it good out here. But do you hear what these guys are saying to us? You know, to hear Mo D, who was like God, he was dope on the mic battle. Cool Mo D, as you can see, I rock the world society, but at the end you will agree, nobody rocks the mic. We rock, and just the crazy rap stuff. But I'm sitting here, I think it was probably 12 years old, and Mo D, Pt.3, Mel, they was like gods to us. But then Mo D and him did the record, Yes We Can. What was Obama's slogan?
Yes, we can.
Now,
which was all you Lee Dorsey record and the tortoises.
20 years ago, Kool Moe Dee and Pt.3 made that record. I know we can make it. I know that we can. I know. They did a remake of that. It started evil, destruction, tax deduction, price inflation, rocks the nation, and unemployment is on the rise.
Not to cut you off, isn't it shameful that all the people that call themselves the homes of hip-hop, R&B, and urban radio, whatever urban means, could not like incorporate that into the psyche of a rap generation, the newest rap or any rap generation?
They could speak on everything else, but then Mo D did something that changed my life at 12 years old. I'm listening to the record, you know, they talking about the president, everything that's happening right now. Price inflation, people losing jobs, but then Mo D did something that was real powerful to me. He said on his freestyle, when it was his turn to go freestyle, he said, once a nobody from the neighborhood took a hop to the top because I knew that I would, excelled over the rest because I make progress. I don't consider it luck because I'm not blessed. He said, I got my life all together, love the way that I live, go to school, really cool, and I think positive because it's a right to have fun, lots of pleasures and joys, but it's a brain that separates the men from the boys. He was a boy! And he was putting that on the mic. I had to pull the needle back and rewind that over and over. And I was like, how could this guy from the Bronx who has less than me, I go to Catholic school, got a basketball, how could this guy from the South Bronx and these guys from Harlem be talking about this? It existed. It existed. It will always exist. Hip-hop could never die. How could hip-hop die if I'm alive and Mo alive and you alive and Nas is still alive? All those ideas and concepts and all that information exists, but nobody of this generation currently doing hip-hop is talking about it. So people in the last 15 years don't think that's a part of what we should be doing.
Well, also across the country, would you also add to the fact that people had dreams for what money couldn't buy? And now since, you know, and it went through the 90s of the bling and the shine, so the whole thing was to get money. But since the money has come down, the dollar has dropped, and the money is disappearing, do you think dreams will be reestablished in hopes of what money can't buy, and that's knowledge, wisdom, understanding, or even what Barack Obama presented to the fact that I got an inside confidence on myself, and this is what I have, and you can't buy what I have, my self-esteem.
It's like you said earlier, we need 150 of us to go, hip-hop did not just create rappers that get money. Because before hip-hop, it was either the drug game, the stick-up game, or whatever, school.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But once hip-hop came along, everybody thought everybody wants to be a rapper, but hip-hop created journalists, designers, some of the graffiti writers who was illegally writing on walls. These kids don't know that guy, Phase One, is the guy designing your Nikes that you're putting on. We got directors that's in hip hop. We got doctors, we got lawyers. I try to tell the kids, if you look at, you look at these rappers of this generation, every time I see one, they're in court. And I tell a kid, you see that man standing next to him? Now, if that rapper sold 3 million albums last year, made X amount of dollars, but he's in court all year, where do you think that money's coming? To that man with the briefcase, because he got whips and mansions too. But of course it's going to go back to the money. Of course it's going to go. But listen, we were getting money for doing something that we loved. But we knew, no matter how extreme we get, we always knew we had a responsibility. I tell kids, yo, ain't Puffy and Bad Boy and Death Row, listen, we lived the sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle, but because of the responsibility, we never put none of those images and concepts on our records, and we were still successful.
Right, and going against those standards is almost like cheating. We'll be back with more DMC, the King of Rock, when we return on the reel and off the record.
Straight.